We'd like to welcome everyone tonight to our City Council meeting. We're so glad you're here, and we will be pleased to have the Pledge of Allegiance given by James Harris.
Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We are honored tonight to have two speakers, special speakers that entered the Dr. Martin Luther King speech contest. And so we are thrilled that they're here with us tonight. And we will start, we have two speeches, and we will start with Alexander Harrison, a first grader from Bountiful Elementary.
Okay, I'm gonna begin. My name is Alexander Frederick Harrison. I go to Bountiful Elementary School and I'm in first grade. I chose Martin Luther King's speech, "What is your life's blueprint?" to inspire my fellow students to study hard, never give up, and be the best of whatever you are. I want to ask you a question, and that is, what is your life's blueprint? I want to suggest some of the things that should begin your life's blueprint. Number one, and your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your worth, and your own somebodyness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are nobody. Others feel that you count. Others feel that you have worth, and others feel that your life has ultimate significance. Secondly, in your life's blueprint, you must have as the basic principle the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. And I say unto you, my young friends, doors are opening to you. Doors of opportunities that are now open to your mothers and your fathers. And the great challenge facing you is to be ready to face these doors as they open. And when you discover what will you be in your life, set out to do it as if God Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. Don't just set out to do a good job, set out to do such a good job that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. If a father wants to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Leontyne Price sings before the Metropolitan Opera. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, "Here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well." If you can't be a pine at the top of the hill, then be a shrub in the valley, but be the best little shrub on the side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star, for it isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are.
Thank you, Alexander. That was fantastic. And I just have to ask our streets department director, when he's talking about street sweeping, weren't you motivated?
Yeah.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us tonight. We are so excited now to have another speaker with us, and this is Luca Bailey, a third grader from Muir Elementary. Luca, we will turn the time over to you.
Yeah.
Does that work good for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Hi, my name is Luca Bailey. I am 8 years old. I go to Muir Elementary Chinese Dual Immersion Program, and the speech is a portion of I Had a Dream by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the reason why I chose this speech is because the more I say it, the more it comes to me. And it's just Dr. Martin Luther King was a good man to lots of people. And I'm going to say the speech in Spanish. Y si Estados Unidos ha de ser grande, esto tendrá que hacerse realidad. Entonces que resuene la libertad desde la cúspide de los montes prodigiosos de Nueva Hampshire. Que resuene la libertad desde las poderosas montañas de Nueva York. Que resuene la libertad desde las alturas alejinas de Pennsylvania. Que resuene la libertad desde las rocosas cubiertas de nieve en Colorado. Que resuene la libertad desde las sinuosas pendientes de California. Pero no solo eso. Que resuene la libertad desde la montaña de piedra de Georgia. Que resuene la libertad desde la montaña Lookout de Tennessee. Que resuene la libertad desde cada pequeña colina y montaña de Mississippi. Desde cada costado de la montaña. Que resuene la libertad. Y cuando esto ocurra, cuando dejemos resonar la libertad, cuando la dejemos resonar desde cada ciudad y cada estado, desde cada estado y cada ciudad, seremos capaces de apresurar la llegada de ese día en que todos los hijos de Dios, hombres negros y hombres blancos, judíos y cristianos, protestantes y católicos, serán capaces de unir sus manos y cantar las palabras del viejo espiritual negro. Por fin somos libres, por fin somos libres. Gracias a Dios Todopoderoso, por fin somos libres.
Luca, thank you so much. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you to Luca and Alexander and your families. And wow, our future's in good hands. Thank you. We we will now move to our public comment period. We would love to hear from any of you. If you would like to speak, just come to the microphone and say your name and your address, and you have 2 minutes if you'd like to make any comment.
Hi, Alex Densley, 443 Jerry Drive. Just one little quick comment, just because there isn't a public discussion on it on agenda item 7. I had to make sure I had the right number there. Just on the Main Street thing, I read through the packet, looked at the parking, looked at everything. I think that's really great for what we are doing with this lot area down there. My only request is that if there's any way to add additional parking off of the street side of there. Looking at the type of what we're trying to turn downtown into, the apartments down there that we're putting in there, I'm just trying to avoid a 4th North Orchard Drive situation. Anybody who drives past there in the middle of winter, there's always or summer, there's always cars on Orchard Drive. There's just not enough parking for that complex there. Just trying to avoid future things if that is our goal, to bring more people downtown and or have more business opportunities down there. Obviously in the evening times when the parking lot's most likely full and or any type of thing there. It just seemed like the parking seemed a little light for what the development is going in there. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will now consider approval of minutes of previous meetings held January 24th, 2023.
Mayor, motion to approve the minutes?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. And now we will move to council reports. Councilman Higginson is joining us remotely, and we'll start with you, Councilman Higginson.
Thanks, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Greetings from the great city of Reno, Nevada, where we are embroiled in mosquito abatement talks this week. So we send our best. If folks have been keeping up with the news, they're probably aware of the fact that the electric power markets are tight and power continues to be high on the wholesale market. At our Power Commission meeting last week, we learned of a city that is familiar to us that has burned through approximately $25 million of their cash reserves thus far. Enron levels of cash reserve use. Thankfully, we don't have the same exposure that they do, and we're keeping that in check through a number of ways, including we have hydro generation going at both of our city-owned hydro plants at Echo and Pineview, thanks to the healthy precipitation we've received. Of course, we've got great staff working every day to limit our exposure, and that includes also the scheduling of our biggest industrial users' power. There's reason to be thankful for our power departments and those that work there, but there's also a reason for us to continue to push back on efforts to limit power going forward. The city, of course, needs to have access to stable, long-term resources in order to continue to provide our residents with power that's cheaper than they could otherwise buy it and more reliable than they would otherwise experience. One additional piece of news from the power department, our Steel Solar project. I shouldn't say it's ours, although we're contracted to purchase power from Steel. The panels that have been in customs for a number of months now have been deemed likely never to clear customs. As to their origin, there's some question as to whether they were manufactured with labor that's not acceptable to us. So that's going to set that project back a bit. The likelihood is that we will still sign on for power when that project comes to fruition. But it would be nice if it was going to be sooner than later. That's all I have for this time, Mayor, and thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for that report. Councilwoman Segura Bar, do you have a report?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Price Hewish.
Thank you, Mayor. So one thing I wanted to just make sure that everybody is aware of is in 2 weeks, we will be holding a joint session here for City Council and Planning Commission on March 14th at 6 p.m. If you are a person who's been interested at all in the general plan update process, there's going to be a kind of a report about how that process is going, where we are in that process. And I, for one, am very excited about that. That's under the auspices of the, the council, but also the planning department. So please, if you are interested in that, there will be a meeting regarding the general plan update on March 14th. Additionally, regarding the Bountiful Davis Art Center, they have a really unique and first time ever opportunity happening in the next couple of weeks, actually in the next week and a half. So the Bountiful Davis Art Center is located at 90 North Main Street. They're a huge asset to our city. They put on Music Fest, art classes, exhibitions, and Summer Fest, our wonderful cultural event in the summer, and all different types of programming. To help fund their programming and the many wonderful things they do, doing an art auction. It will be online March 6th through the 11th. So get on bdac.org and participate if you're interested in collecting some art. There will also be a live auction. A few pieces will be held back. And if you are interested in going to the live auction, you can get tickets on bdac.org. And there will be entertainment and dinner and a live auction. So if you really love, if you get into the auction fever and you can't stop yourself from bidding higher, boy, this is for you. get online and get your tickets. And it's all for such a good cause, BDAC.
Thank you so much. Councilman Bell.
A couple of quick items is just kind of for calendaring purposes. We will have a concert, maybe in part, benefit concert by Toast. It's a bread tribute band. It's on April 10th at 7 p.m. at Woods Cross High. So if you'd like to participate in that, grab your tickets. They've pledged a portion of their proceeds to help us with our summer concerts. Second item is the Bountiful Food Pantry is in need of food. They've had more demand this year in recent months than they've had in quite a few years. It's been reported that they're at a 7-year low for their food. So if you are in a position that you want to donate there, that would be wonderful. Volunteer time is also in need, so food and volunteers. And then on March 18th, there will be a statewide food drive. So more details to come out on that, but that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bradshaw.
My efforts on behalf of the city have been largely focused at the legislature of late, so a couple updates from today at the Hill. The bill dealing with dedicated infrastructure districts, DIDs, as we call them, looks like it will not advance this session, in part due to the outreach of everyone here on the council, as well as our fellow cities. Gary wants to say something about this.
Just wondering if you wouldn't mind explaining what the DID bill would have done.
What it did done?
What it would have done.
I would be happy to explain what the DID bill did done if it had passed. For the public, there's a tool called a Public Infrastructure District, a PID. It exists in a toolbox alongside RDAs, CDAs, assessment areas, HTRZs, an alphabet soup of tools to help redevelop areas, build infrastructure, and do those types of things. A public infrastructure district requires the vote of a city council in an open and public meeting to create. And the reason for that is that you're allowing the developer access to the public bond market where rates are lower in order to help finance their infrastructure that they're building. So roads or sewer, water, bridges, things like that. In order to facilitate this bill, the idea was that you would grant, there's the gatekeeping to the public bond market are the sovereign powers that elected officials hold in your trust, which include policing powers, power of eminent domain, and the power to levy taxes. And so this particular version of the bill would have granted the power of taxation to an unelected board to facilitate this infrastructure district, but also the power of eminent domain. And we thought that that was something that was not appropriate to grant an unelected board to do, where there's all of these other tools that they can access for infrastructure to build projects, and of course the capital, commercial capital markets that they could access as well. So that's DIDS. It's done. Other bills that are, still in play, we were able to address the particular concerns of those cities that have ownership interest in the IPP power plant through amendments to HB 425. So that bill has now moved to a state that we can live with if it passes all the way through by Friday. I won't bore you all with all the bills, but I'm happy to answer any questions about particular bills.
What's the likelihood of that moving through? 425.
425. Likely. It does have a fiscal note, the underlying bill that they amended that dealt with Rocky Mountain Power specifically. For the audience, we are a municipal power city. We operate in very separate realms, municipal power cities versus those that are in the Rocky Mountain Power Service territory. So that underlying bill had a fiscal note of about $250,000 because of the provisions of that underlying bill. Fiscal note bills are being considered right now. So if that bill is funded, then it likely moves. The components that were added for the IPP power plant did not trigger an additional fiscal note in its final form. It definitely would have in its first or second substitute format.
We are so grateful to you for watching over things at the legislature and trying to look out for Bountiful's interests. And any other questions for Councilwoman Bradshaw?
Mayor, could I jump in?
Please.
I think it would have been appropriate for Councilmember Bradshaw to take a little more credit. I want to thank her and I want to thank Gary because they were there a lot. I also want to thank the rest of the council and you, Mayor, for showing up and filling a hearing room and putting pressure on those folks who were making those decisions to negotiate. And it's probably hard to overstate the importance of, again, this session, removing an attack on the sovereignty of cities and the IPP project that they own. It's disheartening sometimes to have to fight these attacks off every year, but I'm grateful for those there who took the time to go to Salt Lake, fill a hearing room, and then negotiate with those folks to get a better outcome. So thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Councilman Higginson. Absolutely. Thank you so much for what you've done, Councilman Bradshaw in particular. Okay, we will now move to the Bountiful City Youth Council report.
Hello, I'm Ryan Chapman. I'm the city planner from the Bountiful City Youth Council. Just hold it up like this. Okay.
Our
awesome.
city planner was cheering for
Yeah,
you.
he's excited.
Okay. So I'm the city planner from the Bountiful City Youth Council, and I'm going to give our report on what we've been doing recently. So in the months of January and February, some things that we've done is we've gone to the state capitol, and we got a chance to tour it with Kate and Ray Ward, and then we got to see how government works, and we got to see some of the swearing in ceremonies because it was that time of year and the start of a new year. And then shortly after, we went to lunch at Joyluck with Francisco, and it was lots of fun. And then we've been planning for our upcoming bunny hop activity in April, on April 8th at 9 to 10 a.m. at Bountiful City Square. And then we've also been focusing on teen suicide, and it's a issue in our community, and we've been wanting to improve on that and make sure that people are cared for. And so a few weeks ago, we created some suicide hotline awareness, painted rocks, and then we placed them around Bountiful in the month of February, because sometimes it can be a very happy month, but it can also be very lonely. And so we thought that'd make a difference in some folks' lives. And then now I'm going to report some of our upcoming activities. So we have our bunny hop that I mentioned earlier in April. And then some other things that are upcoming is our applications are open for new memberships starting tomorrow, March 1st, and they close on April 15th. And we would love it if you guys would spread the word, everyone here. It'd be much appreciated. We would love some new members. And then we've also beginning to plan our Stomp on Main Street. And we think it would attract lots of youth around the city. And it would be a great chance to unite the community and just be a great social event. Are there any questions?
Just so if anyone's interested in joining, so starting tomorrow, applications are available, and it's for grades.
Oh, it's for grades 9th grade to 12th grade, and they can be found on our website and any of our other online resources.
Perfect. So if you're a Bountiful resident in those 9th through 12th grade next school year, applications are open starting tomorrow.
Yes.
It's exciting. Okay, thank you so much for that report.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Mayor,
Looks like we have a
Mayor,
question.
could I just point out, somebody reached out to me and told me that they had seen one of the rocks that you all had put around town. And I just think that those little kind of things are really nice and make a difference. So that was noticed by somebody who reached out and said that was a little difference maker. And also, thank you in advance for all the work you're putting into Bunny Hop. That's a quality of life issue that a lot of families really, really look forward to and enjoy. And so your work is super appreciated there. So thank you.
I have a last question, Mayor, before we
Please.
dismiss. I'd love to hear more of the details for the Stomp. Is this for certain age groups, all of our high schools, or who's invited? Who do you want to come?
We haven't planned a lot yet, but we're focusing on like high school age, and we're thinking like all schools can come, and I think we're allowing we're gonna like work with other city youth councils and like see if like Centerville, West Bountiful, Woods Cross, and North Salt Lake would be interested. And
That sounds exciting and like a lot of fun.
That's great. Thank you so much.
thank you for your time.
Yeah. Okay, we will now consider approval of expenditures greater than $1,000 paid January 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, 30th, February 6th, and 13th, and the December 2022 financial report.
Mayor, I'll be happy to make a motion that we approve those as printed, but I'd like to share a detail with you first.
Okay,
Charles reported last week I texted him during our Power Commission meeting. He said that we've already used 22,094 tons of salt this year as of last Tuesday. That's compared to a yearly average of 15,876 tons over the last 7 years. So as of last week, we were already 40% above our 7-year average for salt usage, and I don't think we're going to stop using anytime soon. Thankfully, he says that it's still readily available for purchase, and with that, I'd be happy to make the motion that we approve the expenditures and the comparison.
I'll second.
Second.
okay, second with Councilman Bell, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. We now consider approval of the site plan for the 4th South and Main mixed-use project. Is that, okay, great. We're so glad we have our senior planner, Amber Corbridge, here to walk us through that. Thank you.
Good evening. While he's pulling that up, so on the 21st of February, the Planning Commission met to discuss the site plan and architectural design for a multifamily mixed-use project at 4th and Main. Those are the drawings shown on the screen there. There's going to be a total of 28 units between the 3 separate structures, and the main floor will be for retail mercantile space that faces Main Street. So during the discussion of this review, the commission reviewed staff's recommendation to add landscaping islands to reduce heat island effect. And in the discussion, they found that they needed to have as much parking as possible for this site. And so that was one item that staff recommended that was removed in their motion. And so with that, the commission forwarded a positive recommendation with the conditions I'll mention in a minute, with a unanimous vote, 5-0. We recommend that City Council review the 4th and Main mixed-use project, architectural site plan application, and approve with these following conditions. 1, combine the parcels used for the project, including utility and cross-access easements. 2, submit a lighting plan meeting the land use requirements, code requirements. 3, remove the western sidewalk from the site plan to match the landscape plan. And 4, meet all department staff review comments and corrections. Do you have any questions for me?
I know there was a question about parking, and I saw the parking study. It looks like there's been quite a lot that has gone into the determination about the parking. Do you mind just giving us a little highlight?
Yeah, so in the for mixed-use projects, we allow for an applicant to submit a parking study because of the different uses involved. And so when they submitted that to us, we accepted that parking ratio. And so we went with those numbers, and this project actually exceeds the parking study number by, I believe, 4 stalls. So they're actually doing a little bit more than what the parking study required.
Thank you. What other questions do you have, council?
May I continue in the parking discussion?
Yeah.
I know that there are some other businesses that have used that parking lot, specifically Twirl, Jim's Flowers, and that salon that use that driveway kind of between the two buildings.
Yes.
And I know they aren't necessarily property owners, but have there been any discussions with those businesses as it pertains to parking? And do we think that those 4 additional stalls will make up for the parking that those businesses will be losing?
So, in the discussion in the last meeting, this was kind of brought up too, where those parking stalls for the adjacent property are not being shared. They're not part of the shared agreement, only the access is. So those stalls that Francisco's pointing out are for the salon because it's on that property. And then the new project, the parking is only for the new project uses. So there will be no shared parking between the two separate parcels.
So for Twirl, the salon, and Jim's Flowers, they'll have those 4 parking spaces.
So no, not 4. Where are you getting 4?
Well, you were saying the additional 4. I
Right.
apologize.
So let me clarify that.
So how many parking spaces are in that adjacent shared?
I didn't do a count on it. Maybe Francisco can pull up. Do you know how many stalls exist right there?
Randy's here, he'll tell us in a minute, just off the scale, I see 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So they'll have 6 or 7 plus the 3 that are in front, the parallel?
But those are not for all of those locations, those are
We should ask him to come to the microphone for Richard.
So those will be.
Do you mind just coming to the microphone? Thanks.
Thanks. So those will be for the new building, the retail on that lower level? No.
No. So if you look at the outline here that's in red, down at the bottom where the hand currently is, I think Francisco's driving, right?
Yeah.
So that area is dedicated to the building just east only. The parking for those other buildings is not from any of this. They've just been utilizing that parking.
No, and I understand that,
Yeah.
and I'm just curious to know if, and I understand they don't have
The right to.
the rights.
Correct.
I'm just curious to know, I'm just thinking of the domino effect, if there's
Yeah.
been any conversation with that building owner.
The one directly to the east, yes.
And
The
they-
others
so
to
they
the
know what's-
south, yeah,
Okay. So they know what is coming.
correct,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
You know, just for the sake of, let's just let Amber finish. If there was anything else, did anyone else have any other questions for Amber at this time? And then I'm sure we can hear more. Okay. Any other questions in general about this project?
Sorry, looking at the parking, well, this image that's on the screen right now, there's the building that fronts or faces Main Street, and that's the one that's going to have the business and mercantile space, right? Is that correct, on the ground level?
The building right there, yes.
Yeah, so that fronts Main Street. So will those business purposes, those will only be on, that mixed-use part will be on the first floor, the main level. So,
If you don't mind, just come to the microphone. Thank you.
Randy, thank you. Okay, so looking back at that, the picture with the parking, how many units are in that, how many residential units are in that building that
The
faces
front
Main?
building,
Uh-huh,
there are 4.
okay, so and Francisco, do you mind going back to the picture that shows parking? Okay, so on the back side, those 7 spots, is that for the business? And, I mean, they're all shared, but I mean, is kind of those 7 spots will be for the business purposes and the units in that building?
So depending on where all of the covered parking lies, because one of the ordinances that we have to follow with the city is that we provide at least one covered parking stall per unit. And so if you look at, I think it's hard for me to read this, but it looks like 8 through 17 maybe. Those are all covered parking stalls, so likely at least one of those stalls, or 4 of them, I should say, will be allocated to the 4 residential units. The parking directly behind or west of the building at discussion right now, those will all be used primarily for the site in general, but the idea is that a lot of the time during business hours, those will be available.
So would you, I think it could be just a little confusing to people who are utilizing the businesses that
Yeah.
will end up occupying those spaces. Would you consider having signage that says these
Yes.
stalls are available for, just so, I think anytime you see a covered parking stall, you think, better not park there.
Correct. So the parking stalls will be for the residents. All the other remaining stalls will be for any use. And yes, there will be signage.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to make a little comment that you've increased the amount of landscaping area beyond what's required.
Yes.
And I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
So anytime we can do that, and hopefully we'll have some, like it shows on one of the other renderings, some really great trees out there facing Main Street.
Yeah, one thing that I would like to point out on that is with commission, this angle kind of helps this a little bit. If you look directly to the west building, that's the furthest west, you'll see a sidewalk that goes up the side. That was what one of the conditions of approval was, that we remove just the west, not that one, the one that goes, yep, that one. Thanks, Francisco. They wanted to remove that so that we had additional landscape on that side as well. And the reason being, just so you all understand why, is these buildings have an interior corridor. And so for somebody, the likelihood of somebody coming out of that building, exiting to the south, walking to the west, and then walking back to 4 South is highly unlikely. Whereas if they're going to be inside the building, they're going to come directly out and to 4 South, if that makes sense. So the circulation inside the building directs them right to 4 South, instead of going out and all the way around.
May I ask a clarifying question on that?
Uh-huh.
But that's not, just so people listening, but that's not removing the city sidewalk. That's
Correct.
just your.
Just
Yeah.
the sidewalk
Just-
that's to the west.
Just
Yes,
for people who are looking, it might have
Correct.
looked like we were removing that pathway.
that's correct.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
I get excited when I see this type of mixed-use project on Main Street. And I agree with Alex, who's saying this is the kind of thing that we're looking at long-term vitality in our Main Street, on our Main Street corridor. I'm just wondering if you have in mind, and you don't have to, divulge, but these spaces on the main floor, do you think that those will be primarily retail or restaurants, or do you think they will be more office space type of utilization?
My guess is that it will not be restaurant just because of the size of the space and the parking requirement that goes along with that. That's what makes it really hard to park. And so if we have something like a restaurant, the parking requirement goes up and makes it even more difficult to make this a viable project. So the likelihood of that happening is probably not very likely. Now, there could be something like a smaller bakery or something like we did on First South in Maine. Something like that could be a potential opportunity. We don't know at this current time what those look like or who may come and want to experience, or be a part of Main Street in this building, but, we would hope that it would be something very boutique-y. Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say I appreciate you taking time to invest in our city, and really looking forward to having a function that's utilized and benefiting everyone. So thank you, and your materials that you've used are not cheap, and I appreciate you going to the extra expense to beautify your building as well.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure that Mr. Hepworth knows that as well, as it's his property.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan for the 4th South and Main mixed-use project with the staff conditions.
Second.
That second was from Councilwoman Segura Bar. Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you so much. We will now move to consider approval of a single event beer permit for St. Olaf's Catholic Church. Ms. Amber Corbridge.
Okay, so before you is the license request for a special event on May 6th, 2023. And the applicant and proposed premise meet the required qualifications included in the Bountiful City Municipal Code 57103. And we've had multiple people review this, such as the police department and attorney. And so we recommend approval for this single event beer permit for May 6th, 2023 at St. Olaf's Catholic Church, located at 1793 South Orchard Drive. And do you have any questions regarding this request?
Move to approve.
Second.
That second is Councilman Bell, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. We'll now consider approval of the purchase of a 2023 Dodge 550 5500 4x4 cab and chassis from Salt Lake Valley Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Mr. Jess Pierce? Oh, excellent. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for your time this evening. At the power department, we're just trying to stay ahead of our fleet needs. And so in the proposed 2023-2024 budget that's coming up after July 1st, we're looking at replacing one of our crew service trucks. This truck is used on a daily basis by a line crew, transportation of crew, equipment, safety gear, all necessary requirements to do their job. These trucks are also stocked, loaded for outage situations. We can pretty much take care of an outage with what we supply on those trucks. So convenience-wise and time frame helps us out. So we went out to bid. We requested bid from two suppliers, Salt Lake Valley Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, and also Larry H. Miller Ford. Both dealers have state bid contract. Only one bid was brought back from Salt Lake Valley. Reached out to Ford and asked, they had every intention of giving us a bid. The gentleman that was taking care of the bid process got pneumonia and ended up in the hospital, so we didn't receive a bid for that reason. We feel completely comfortable with the Dodge that Salt Lake Valley has provided a bid for, meets our specs, meets our needs. There's a little bit of hesitation with Ford. We actually were gonna build this truck in this current year's budget, but Ford came back and canceled cab and chassis on us 14 months after we'd ordered them. Essentially told us order again and try next time. So a little bit hesitant going with Ford just because of that reasoning. But Dodge has come back with the price of $74,667 and 120-day lead time, which for cab and chassis, trucks, equipment, 120-day lead time is excellent. So this would be taken out of next year's M&E vehicles account, which we've allotted $130,000 proposed in that budget next year to take care of this truck, which will be this cab and chassis and the bed that goes with it. So staff recommendation would be to purchase this Dodge from Salt Lake Valley. I'll entertain
Any questions?
I'd make a motion to approve the purchase.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries, and we'll now move to the next item with you as well, Mr. Pierce.
Appreciate that. The other half of this truck, so that was just the cabin chassis. We have to supply the bed that actually goes on it, the toolboxes, the bed, the bins, that sort of thing. So like I said, we were actually going to build this unit out of this current year's budget. So we had a Dakota body through Mountain States Industrial Services that we had already ordered for this year. Through that process, before Ford came back and canceled cabin chassis on us, not Mountain States, but Dakota bodies that they were buying that service body through, came back and they wanted a surcharge of an extra $13,000 from original bid price. And then Ford came back and canceled chassis as well. So we told Dakota, Mountain States, cancel our order. We're not gonna pay the surcharge of $13,000. They wouldn't honor their original bid price. Mountain States jumped on the opportunity. They haggled back and forth with Dakota Bodies and got the price down back to a reasonable amount, and they purchased that body to put in their inventory to build a truck for whoever it may be later on. So they actually have in stock the body that was built for us for this current year's budget. Works excellent. You know, it's sitting at their warehouse in Salt Lake City, ready to go. It's designed for us, meets every spec we need. So staff recommendation, this would come out of the M&E account as well. Like I said, there's $130,000 in that proposed budget for next year to take care of this, as combined with the cabin chassis. But staff recommendation would be to purchase the Dakota service body from Mountain States Industrial Services for a total of $46,238. And that includes installation onto the cabin chassis.
Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve as requested.
Second.
Second.
That second is from Councilwoman Bradshaw, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
That motion passes. Now we get to hear from Mr. Greg Martin to consider approval of the purchase of an extreme power UPS and maintenance contract.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The IT department, in conjunction with the police department, you may have heard that we recently had a UPS system, or battery backup system, fail at the police department. It did cause some downtime with our 911 phone systems, as well as our network equipment. That failure has been determined to be in the chassis of the system and cannot be repaired, so it has to be replaced. We went out to bid with 4 vendors. We got 3 responses. This system will actually combine multiple UPSs into a single unit, freeing up some of the main floor space at the police department for their possible future expansion needs. This system is going to be rated at 40 kVA, meaning it has sufficient power to power our systems for up to and maybe possibly even beyond 2 hours. The reason we were shooting for that goal is sometimes a particular occurrence in the past has been that the generator did not kick on and we had to have time to get somebody out to service the generator. So we were really looking to extend as much battery time as we could with this system. So this will actually back up both the city infrastructure network as well as the 911 phone systems. We will be able to separate the functioning unit still and utilize that at the landfill to back up critical systems out there. So the staff recommendation is that we purchase the UPS system from Tech Connect at a cost of $45,386. Were there any questions?
A quick question. So it seems like this was kind of unexpected, this outage, obviously. And did you feel like what we had in place, like, was it at end of life? I mean, I know that you said it cannot be repaired, it's unsalvageable, we need to go forward with this. It's your recommendation, but was it at end of life?
Well, hard to say. The system actually was a UPS that we used in City Hall prior to the remodel. And so when we remodeled the system and gutted City Hall, we moved it to the police department to use it during that time. It actually fell through the cracks that it should have been under a maintenance contract and was not. The IT department kind of passed it off to the police department. Police department thought we were handling it, we thought they were handling it, and so we missed doing maintenance on that. Now, it's hard to say that that is the core reason that this system failed. Actually, the vendor that came out and did a service on the UPS after the failure indicated he's never seen a failure like this before. These systems tend to be modular so that if a component fails, you can replace them with a like component. And that's actually the system we are replacing it with for that reason. So it's hard to say that it was end of life. It had been in use for quite some time, though.
Maybe a follow-up to that. How long had it been in service?
I believe that we had used it in City Hall for about 3 years, as I recall. And we had moved it to the police department for the 2 years plus, so about 5 years total.
And how long do you expect this system to last? Is there a life expectancy or a maintenance expectation on it?
If I can defer. Probably 10 to 15 years. Ben is the representative from Tech Connect, and so the system that he's recommending is this Extreme, and so life expectancy is over 10 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I move that we approve this purchase for the Tech Connect replacement unit.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
That motion passes. And now we will be pleased to hear from Mr. Todd Christensen to consider the approval of the purchase of 0.36 acres of Machine Lake Wetland Mitigation Credit.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, with the North Canyon Trailhead Project, we have plans to channelize the stream into a pipe, and that will, of course, allow better utilization of that property, allow us to build a parking lot where that stream flows through now. And initially, a typical permitting process for a joint permit for a state and federal permit for stream alteration, which was approved by the state but denied by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, indicating that we needed to follow a different permitting process for this project. And so we did hire a consultant to help us through the process. And one of the things that is required for the process that we needed to follow is wetland mitigation. So our consultant delineated the wetland area impacted and discussed with us options for mitigating the wetland in terms of cost and how much time it would take. And it became clear that the fastest and lowest cost option would be to propose to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that we purchase wetland credits. And he suggested we start with a 2-to-1 ratio. In other words, we disturb 0.18 acres of wetlands for this project, and we would propose to purchase double that, so 0.36 acres of wetland credits through a wetland credit bank. And so that was put into our proposal to the Corps, and they accepted that proposal. And we got the pricing for the wetland credit, which came back at $35,000 for the 0.36 acres of wetland credit. And this is through the the Machine Lake Freshwater Wet Meadow credits, to be precise. The expenditures for this payment would be using bond funds, as it is associated with the Trailhead project. And so the recommendation is that City Council approve the purchase of 0.3 acres of Machine Lake wetland mitigation credit for $35,000.
Thank you. So they have approved the purchase of the credits, but then is there still a separate application process that we still then go through with them?
No, we essentially have conditional approval, I will call it. I think they call it a verification of our application, but we need to show them that we've purchased the credits, give them notice, and then follow some other documentation procedures. Otherwise, it's all approved.
Do you have a guess as to after those credits are purchased, how much longer the process will be before you're done with, the approval process with them?
That's the completion of the approval. The only other thing we need to give them at this point is 10 days' notice before we start doing any disturbance in the area.
Great.
So,
Any other questions?
Just curious,
Yes, oh.
do we know where this Machine Lake Wetland Mitigation Bank is located?
the wetland area, I looked it up, it's west of Brigham City
Okay.
and north of Willard Bay. So it's in that area.
I really loved learning about this. I thought it was pretty cool. But I have a question that is not really related to the wetland, but related to the concrete pipe. I know this is not for this discussion, and I'm going to make a motion after this question, but what is the width and what's the circumference of our concrete pipe that we're putting through there?
We will be placing a 36-inch diameter concrete pipe, and that's for the main channel. And then the tributary, the smaller channel, you can kind of see it on the diagram.
Mm-hmm.
We will use a 24-inch diameter concrete pipe for that branch.
It's really, really awesome engineering, and thanks for your work on this. And I would propose the motion that we approve the wetland mitigation credit purchase.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Mayor, could I ask a question? I want to make sure that we're capturing Councilman Higginson's vote, and I've noticed we have just a teeny bit of a timing delay. So I just want to make sure we capture his vote on motions.
Sure. Thank you. Can you hear us, Councilman Higginson?
I can. Thus far, all of my votes have been in harmony with the rest of the council.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Councilwoman Bradshaw. Yes, okay, so that motion passes, and Todd, I just want to thank you. I know some of the issues that you deal with are really complex, and when we're dealing with, FEMA and some of the organizations that you end up dealing with some of these issues, the Forest Service, so thank you so much for literally getting into the weeds with some of these things and helping guide us through some of these complicated issues. So we'll now turn the time back over to you to consider approval of the bid from Rock Solid Trail Contracting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. In this item, to introduce this, I will remind you that a couple of months ago, I brought before you a couple of contracts for sets A and B, which were awarded to Avid Trails to build trails in the Mueller Park and North Canyon area. And this project here is for set C, which are for trails between Holbrook and Ward Canyons, totaling about 10 miles of trails in that area. And this was put out to bid. We did get 2 bids. Avid Trails did not bid on this set because they told me later that they felt like they were booked up for the year with the other projects that they had, especially having been awarded the other 2 projects for sets A and B. IMBA gave a bid, and then Rock Solid Trail Contracting. The lower of the 2 is Rock Solid Trail Contracting, who has not done work in Utah as of yet. However, they did successfully go through our pre-qualification process. And they also recently acquired a Utah contractor's license. And they are making arrangements to come out and, to send 2 crews out here for this year to get these trails constructed. And they have a lot of great experience with trails, and so they're confident, and staff is confident in their ability to get the work done and build quality trails. Again, this would be paid for using bond funds. And so staff recommends that City Council accept the bid from Rock Solid Trail Contracting for 2023 Trails Construction Set C for $391,916.88.
I have a question. Can you give us a short sample of maybe where they're located and where they've done work in the past? Rock Solid?
Yeah, most of their work is in, and they're kind of spread out a little bit, but the person, my point of contact lives in Arkansas, and the person that is, well, one of the people that they're going to send out here is from Michigan, if I remember right. They've done a lot of work in Michigan, Wisconsin, and do you remember, Brock? I know Arkansas as well.
Have they done
the
much
Great
work
Lakes.
in the Rocky Mountains or?
No, not in the west, no, but they are looking to expand this direction.
On-
Well, that's helpful.
Would you mind just repeating what Brock said? Just, I want to make sure we capture it for.
Yeah,
Councilman
Brock
Higginson.
mentioned that they have worked with IMBA on projects where IMBA has used Rock Solid as a subcontractor.
Thank you.
I've got a question. As part of our due diligence on this, and maybe this is part of the process that you've gone through, but have we contacted former or municipalities or counties or states that have utilized them and kind of had those conversations about, kind of one-on-one conversations about their experience with Rock Solid?
I didn't reach out and have any conversations with any of their other clients, no. They did have, from what I recall, they had at least one letter of recommendation in the information that they submitted for pre-qualification.
Any other questions?
I mean, I'm just going to say, we have to rely on your recommendation to a large degree. And, but their bid price is so much less. And without them having experience here in the state or in our type of terrain, I feel like I would be remiss if I did not say that I'm a little bit concerned that we don't have kind of that additional information about them because they are not a known partner. I do feel a little bit better that you say that they are, they work with IMBA because we have a relationship with them. But I don't want to find ourselves in the first pancake conundrum, like we're their first pancake in Utah, and sometimes that first pancake turns out super great. Sometimes it's burned. Sometimes it's raw in the middle. So
I know that there were hopes that IMBA would be the low bidder, and that just didn't happen. I think it may help to compare the unit pricing with sets A and B, which I have in front of me here. The unit price per mile of trail for set A is $40,640. The average price per mile for set B trails is $36,100. And the average price per mile for this set here, set C trails, is $38,840 as bid by Rock Solid Trail Contracting. So in other words, they're in a typical range for price per mile that we've seen on our other projects. And I didn't mention, I don't have that in front of me, the average pricing for the Holbrook to Ward Trail, AKA Bountiful Shoreline Trail, but it's even a little less than these numbers for that trail. Oh, yeah, and we will be relying upon our project management professional.
That's the oversight, the company
yeah.
that's overseeing all the trails work this year.
Yes, yes, and we've met with him, and he's absolutely seems like he's passionate about trails, has great experience, wants to help us make sure we get a good product. So we're also optimistic about his ability to help us make sure that all of the trails that we build this year are what we intend and can be, you know, in line with what we bid and spec'd, as well as built in a manner that are not maintenance nightmares. In other words, maintenance-friendly, sustainable type trails.
That's helpful information. Any other questions?
Yeah, you know, noting that the difference between the two bids is nearly $100,000. I mean, we clearly have a low bidder in this scenario. They're not close. And we want always the best quality and the best price for our residents, and we're using bond funds and grant funds to build these trails, and so we want to stretch that as far as possible. So it's important to balance those two things, and I agree that having the project manager on site and babysitting is going to be key to having comfort with a bidder that's certainly new to us and new to Utah and maybe new to the West. I have heard some concerns from some of the Trails Committee that this particular set of trails, Set C, is perhaps more challenging than Sets A and B, so I'd love your feedback on whether this is a different challenging set of trails.
The one aspect of these trails that could be more challenging, well, I would say that I can think of two, and those two things are that the soils may be more erosive in this area. It's more sandy, and as opposed to I'd say more of a loamy type of a soil from what I've noticed in the Mueller Park North Canyon area. So that's number one. Number two, these trails have on average more switchbacks than the other trails, which I don't have a switchback count. I don't have a number per mile to give with you at this point, but there are at least two of the trails have quite a few switchbacks. On the other hand, there is something that makes these trails a little easier, I would think, and that is that we and they won't need to deal with the Forest Service for these trails because they're all on property that's 100% owned by Bountiful City.
You know, I think because of the procurement process that we go through, I don't know that we have, with the exception of saying that we aren't comfortable, we want to completely rebid the project, and I don't know that anyone is saying that we feel that level of discomfort. My suggestion would be that we move forward with this bidder, and perhaps what we ask of staff is that our new trail supervisor with the dream job, we perhaps ask them to spend a little more time overseeing Set C, and perhaps just to ensure that we're keeping eyes on Sets A and B as well. Perhaps there's ways we can utilize the Trails Committee or other people who would love to spend more time this summer on the trails from the council to help keep an eye on Sets A and B, just because I do think there is just a little bit of concern that their price is so much lower than an entity who has been a significant partner with us all along the way.
I appreciate this suggestion.
What's the time frame for this?
The deadline for construction is October 31st.
So fairly aggressive, maybe, for 10 miles in this location, but I share the comments that have been mentioned previously and take comfort knowing that we have close oversight. We approve billings as work is performed, and that we have the ability to maybe terminate a contract that's not performing, and that we can move forward. But excited for the trails, and glad that we have close oversight with our newly contracted project manager. And given that, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Rock Solid for the amount of $391,917.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded by Councilman Higginson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And now we'll turn the time over to Mr. Brockhill to consider approval of a contract with Stapp Construction.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Today's a great day for our skate park, and we get one step closer to getting this thing built. I hope there's some folks listening at home that are in our skate boarding community, and that they're as excited about this as we are. I bring before you tonight the contract proposals for the Washington Skate Park. Back in February, we received 3 different bids from contractors to build the skate park. One from Stapp Construction, one from Grand Enterprise, and one from SNL. Stapp Construction was the low bidder if you include the alternate, which would be the coloring of the concrete. So if you've looked at the design in your packet, you'll see the impact that the color has in the design. And we felt strongly as staff, as part of our recommendation, that color be included in the bid. And so that low bid came in at $705,111. That is above what was budgeted for in the project. The skate park is part of the Washington Park project as a whole, and it was budgeted for $660 in that original construction budget. It is a little bit more. There will be some discussions with you during the budget process to help us understand how we'll cover that. Gary talked about it tonight in the RAP tax as one of our priorities as a staff to make sure that project comes to full fruition and construction. So we feel through the RAP tax that discrepancy in the budget can be covered through those funds. Stapp Construction is a local construction company. They're located here in North Salt Lake. They have constructed 12 other skate parks, so they're not new to this kind of work. Lloyd and I went down to West Valley City, which is one of their own, and looked at that and paid particular attention to how those things are finished, the features that were included, how the metal is incorporated into the concrete, which is all important when it comes to skating. The finish of the work, we had some questions. I think Lloyd reached out to Stapp to ask those questions and is comfortable with the answers in what he received. We talked about the funding. I think their schedule is going to be dependent on the weather. If we can get weather to break, I think they're willing to jump in and get started as soon as they can, but knowing that weather's going to play an important factor here, we're kind of at its mercy. And speaking from a parks standpoint, I appreciate all the water we can get, so keep it coming. We do feel strongly that this construction will bleed over into the next fiscal year. So that's why I said that there will be some discussion with you during the budget process for the fiscal year 2024, so that we all can start feeling comfortable with how that funding difference is going to be made up. It is the recommendation of the staff that the City Council accept the proposal from Stapp Construction and award them the contract to construct the skate park at Washington Park for the amount of $705,111.55. Any questions?
I have a question. So looking at the image that's provided, there's 3 different colors of concrete there. Which is the native color?
So it'd be the lighter gray would be the native concrete color.
That's the only question I have.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, but could I just be indulged and say a little something? I'm sorry, I already shared this with Lloyd, but, and I will actually refrain from voting on this if you all feel that's appropriate, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that the low bidder and the people who are getting awarded the contract, if we vote on it tonight, Stapp Construction. Just as a little personal side note, Roy Stapp was a resident of Bountiful for 45 years, raised all of his children here, World War II veteran. His name is on a plaque in the Veterans Park. A real great human, would have turned 100 this year, died during the first year of the pandemic. These are his children who own this company. And I had many conversations with Roy, who was a kind of a ornery but super lovable old guy. And he would have loved nothing more than to see a skate park here in Bountiful. So to me, this is thrilling. It's exciting to see that our low bidder is this local company and that they have the experience and the skills to pay the bills. So anyway, that was a little side note. And he also was my stepfather-in-law. That's the extra side note. So anyway, thanks, Brock, and for all your work on this.
Lloyd?
Mayor, if I could make a comment, I had the opportunity to talk to the guys at Spawn Ranch today who did the design for this park. And even though they bid as a subcontractor to SNL, they're still very interested in this park, and they want to play an integral role in the construction and making sure that what they have designed is actually what gets built. And it was very heartening to know that they haven't just handed us a set of specifications and some plans and are just going to walk away. They want to be right here with us, and I think that'll make all the difference in the quality of the product that we get. And I just want you to know that personally I'm very concerned about how this project goes. It's got some special construction techniques, and we're going to need to stay right on board with making sure we get the best bang for our buck as this gets built.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I maybe just want to ask a follow-up to that, Lloyd. That's wonderful, and I appreciate you sharing that. So are they volunteering their time and services, or what are they offering there?
No, their services would come at a price. But they are doing some work for South Ogden City, so they will have a representative in and out. There's probably a possibility we could tag team on those visits to have them stop by the site. But I think for a very minimal cost, we could also have some good consultation from them without them having to be here on site, through Zoom calls or whatever. But I know also that they would be available just for a phone call for a question or something like that.
That's great.
I don't know that all of their involvement would be paid involvement.
And their initial design contract didn't have any construction services part of that?
It has an option in there for that. We haven't chosen to award that part to them, but there are fees set up in that contract that we could discuss later.
Do we know, going off of Lloyd's suggestion, do we know if Stapp would be open to that type of a construction relationship with Spawn Ranch?
I don't see why not. We haven't talked to them about that yet, so that's a discussion we could have with them further.
There are requirements that they have to submit, like shop drawings and those kinds of things to be reviewed by Spawn anyway, so there will be some involvement by Spawn.
What other questions do we have?
I have no further questions. I'm just sincerely excited that we are at this point. I was excited when we were at the approval of the renderings, and I'm just excited that we're here at the funding and or the construction process. I'm happy to make a motion if there's no more. Mayor, I propose that we approve the contract with STAP Construction for the Washington Park Skate Park in the amount of my brain, $705,000, 112, oh my word, I'm so embarrassed.
You're doing just fine.
No, I'm not. This is one of those days. 705, 112, I can't do it.
We know the motion you're making.
I'm making the motion.
That's right.
I'll
Any-
I
second-
should have stayed home.
I'll second the motion for $705,112.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, I didn't pause. Councilman Higginson,
Aye.
thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Washington Park?
Sure.
How's our construction timeline looking for this season?
Have you got a crystal ball? I don't.
I know it's weather dependent.
Yeah, we are actually seeing some construction work going on down there. They're working on the frame of the picnic shelter, the pavilion shelter, so I know that that's going on right now. They've been working on the bathroom building as well, so they've got the trusses on, they've got the roof on. They're waiting for weather and temperatures to be able to paint that. And then, of course, with the weather, we're waiting for the rest of the concrete work, the rest of the landscaping, and then the biggest piece of that is the parking lot. So they're doing what they can. There is action happening, which is encouraging. So I know that Launch Construction, they've been really active in keeping on that and informing us as to what they're doing, what their intentions are. So as soon as weather breaks, they'll be there, I have no doubt.
Wonderful.
But things are happening, so it's good.
It's nice that we don't have a lot of earthwork to do this spring.
Yeah, it's good.
Thanks for that update.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now invite Mr. Charles Benson to help us understand the purchase the purchases he's proposing.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do have a little bit of an update to what Mr. Higginson had brought up about the salt usage and all. So actually, right now, as of today, we've been deployed 65 times to clear the snow roads. We've actually used 24,462 tons of salt. We're actually 8,586 tons over our 7-year average at this point right now.
Thank you. That's a lot of work.
That it is. Thank you for that. Come toward you tonight to talk about a chassis for our service truck for the landfill. So we're proposing that in our next budget year. But while we're looking for pricing and availability, we found that they had a chassis that was just canceled by another customer that met our needs. We're looking at, over a year in lead time if we were to wait. So we kind of jumped on this chassis, got our name on it, and came to you to get approval to purchase this truck. We have purchased the truck. We're actually asking for forgiveness for this right now to pay for this. It meets our needs.
For those playing along at home, that means that we have the ability in our purchasing policy for me to approve expenditures if it will save us money or it's an emergency. So I've authorized that. But the policy also says we should inform the council as soon as we can after that's done. So
Thank you for that, Gary. So this is planned for in our next budget year, and the rest of the equipment to go on the truck is in our next budget year, and we'll fund it during that budgeting process that we're in right now. So staff recommends the approval of the purchase of that truck chassis from Rush Truck Center for $160,000. Are there any other questions?
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion. I make a motion to grant budget forgiveness for the purchase of the brush truck for $160,000.
Second.
Second goes to Councilwoman Price Hewish. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Can
And
I ask Charles a question?
Sure.
Before he goes down, sits down? So, you know, it's been mentioned a couple of times now, the amount of salt that we've had to purchase and how, you know, that is so much above the 7-year average. But how are you starting to plan or think about how all of this extra wear and tear on our plowing trucks is going to affect their lifespan? Because if we're using them twice as much as we normally do, that's wear and tear on the trucks.
And our wear and tear expenses have gone up as well, and we're on our maintenance costs there. We've actually lost 3 rear ends of the trucks, and we've had to rebuild them. We actually have a great mechanic in our shop that has been able to rebuild them, to find the parts. If we'd had to take them out, it would have cost us an extra $10,000 a piece to have those rebuilt. We've also had 4 salter chains, which is what delivers the salt out of the back of the truck. We've had those break as well, and those are about $2,600 a piece, and we've had to replace those as well. So it is wearing on the fleet, but we are maintaining it and keeping it up to standard.
Well, it's really reassuring to know that we have that skill set in-house. And it's just one more way that I feel like I'm constantly amazed at the resources and the skills and the talents that are in your department. So thank you.
Can I ask a couple
Thank you.
more
I'll pass
questions?
that on to him.
How many, I know I've heard this number a few times, I just can't remember, I'm gonna take good notes this time. How many snowplows do we have in the city?
I have 24 snowplows that can go out into the city.
And how many on reserve or backup, or do you have any? Like
2
if one goes
backup
down,
trucks.
okay. And so 24 routes, or how many routes are there?
There's actually 23 routes, and we
23
have an
routes,
extra rover that'll go around and help.
Okay.
Just think if we had 24 names to go with those snowplow trucks.
thank you. Any other questions before we move? Charles also has the next item. Any other questions before we move to his next item? Okay.
Okay. So the next item we have is a sanitation rear loading truck. It's what we use for the special cleanups and other things, bulky pickups throughout the year. We're replacing the 1995 truck. It still operates, but finding parts for that old of a vehicle is getting very difficult to do that. We found a truck from Truck Site Services, a 2008 Crane Carrier, for $99,500. This is a used truck. And then the freight to get it here is $3,985 for a total of $103,485. This has been planned for. We came up to you earlier when we found another truck, and this is the second truck to replace the 2 trucks that are aging out on us right now. They are approaching end of life. Some of them are almost unrepairable right now. So the staff recommends that we purchase this truck for $103,485 from Truck Site Services. You have any other questions I can answer?
So moved?
This one doesn't need forgiveness, so second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
One comment is I have seen those rear loading refuse trucks and been admired of how long you've kept them in use and maintained them along the way. So thank you.
Yeah, we've
Those
got our well
mechanics,
use out of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing the money that we've probably saved with the work of our mechanics. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now we will hear from Chief Ed Beeler about the approval of a purchase of laptops.
Mayor and members of the council, thanks for your time tonight. I'm here to request the approval to purchase 42 laptop computers. Our current method of creating reports and getting data from the officers out on the street is through eForce, which is the program that the software program, and they are a iOS-based software, so everybody has iPads in their vehicles right now. You're aware that we're going to Motorola Flex or Spillman as a part of a bigger countywide project, and that's been going on for well over a year now. And that is on date still to go before July of this year. We're thinking maybe in the June timeframe, which puts us at a timeframe where we now need to start getting some equipment to make sure that we're ready to go when that time comes. So we have been in contact with Motorola representatives and our own IT department to get recommendations on laptop to be able to use. And the one recommendation was, or one of the recommendations was the Dell Mobile Precision Workstation. Bountiful IT's department was able to get pricing through state contract to purchase the laptops for $2,485.04 each. The vendor used for the purchase is NetWise. We need 42 total laptops. That's 33, one for each of our officers. And we have 4 in dispatch, just in case they need to get out of the dispatch center quick, that they've got something available. And that also allows us to have a couple of spares, just in case an officer's goes down, that we have another one to go to. So we're asking for, that's why we get to the 42 number. So the total price would be $104,371.68. We did budget for this in the current budget that we're in right now. So I respectfully request your approval to purchase 42 laptop computers in the amount of $104,371.68.
Chief, did anyone, you or anyone from your department, have a chance to try a laptop and try it out?
Not for this process. Now, I've used a laptop before we were at eForce, so when we had a program called FatPot, we had laptops in our car, but we haven't tried this exact one.
I know just from going on a ride-along with a police officer that it's going to be an improvement, it's going to be better. And so I'm looking forward to that for your officers.
The officers are definitely looking forward to it. I mean, there is drawbacks, there is benefits to having an iPad. It's much more mobile. You can take it out of your car and take pictures of evidence and all that sort of stuff, so you lose some of that functionality. But as you can imagine, the vehicle is the office for our patrol officers. That's where they work out of. So it's smaller, a little bit more cumbersome to work off of an iPad and a Bluetooth keyboard as opposed to having a bigger monitor and that sort of stuff. So yeah, they're definitely looking forward to it.
What will you do with the iPads?
They're already at the end of life, most of them, so we've had to buy some replacements over the time period. I think we bought these in close to 2017 and whatnot, so they're pretty much done anyway. What we do with them when we are done with them, I would assume we'll wipe them and either sell them or see what Gary or whoever recommends that we do with them at that point. But if we weren't doing this, we would probably be in a process of trying to replace all of them anyway.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I've got a question. I'm sorry, maybe you referenced this. I don't think so, though. But in addition to getting these laptops, will there have to be any kind of internal in the vehicles having to build some kind of mechanism?
Stand.
Yeah. And what will the cost?
Okay.
Did you already address this?
I did not address it.
Okay, so what
it's a good
additional
question.
costs are we looking at?
It's a good question. So we already have mounts that are in, the main body of the mount is already in the car right now, and that's how we have the iPads and the keyboards attached. So the only thing that we're gonna have to buy right now is gonna be the tray. It's a bigger tray that a laptop actually sits on. I don't have prices on those yet. That'll be another component. I think that will be obviously much, much lower than what this is going to be. And for those, it will only be for the patrol cars. These laptops are going to be like detectives need them. All of our officers are going to need them. Only the patrol cars are going to need the mounts, and they're only going to need the tray that the laptop sits on. And we haven't started looking on pricing on that. Premier Vehicles is who we usually do business with that, and we'll work with them to make that happen. I would suspect that we may have money in this budget that we're in right now to be able to cover that.
Okay. How many patrol cars do we have?
I don't know. There's 20 4 patrol officers, so that would be 18 patrol and 6 supervisors. So the other vehicles, why I hesitate is because we have some spares and that sort of stuff, but obviously they would still need a mount and a tray that go in there, but yeah.
Thanks. Any other discussion from the council?
I move we approve this purchase of 42 laptops.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
The
thanks.
motion passes. And now we'll turn the time over to our engineer, Mr. Lloyd Cheney.
Thanks, Mayor. You may remember a few weeks ago that we had a spot reserved on a past city council agenda for consideration of a workspace agreement with Kern River. Kern River operates a high-pressure gas pipe system in the foothills above town, and in order to maintain their compliance with federal regulations, they need to do some testing and inspection work. This is a little bit of a unique situation in that where the pipeline crosses through the city, there's very limited access to it. And the locations selected for the testing are really only accessible through city property, and the location to actually conduct the test is adjacent, is on city property. So Kern River has requested permission to utilize city property to conduct those tests. The engineering department's concern always is compliance with city codes, and in discussing Kern River's plans, we've had them provide site plans that show how they intend to use the site, and we've also discussed quite extensively what their restoration plans are for the site after they're done. I hope you've had a minute to look through the exhibits that have been provided. Kern River has agreed to restore the site and also can take care of any repairs for any damage that may occur as they utilize the access road out of Hidden Lake Circle up to the parking lot for the Summerwood Trailhead. I believe that Mr. Michael Stark's here tonight representing Kern River. I've had an extensive amount of conversations with them about the work that they're going to conduct, and I feel very confident that they will be responsible in conducting those operations. They've been gracious enough to provide us some photos that kind of give you a scope of the size of equipment and the size of pipes that they're dealing with. This is more than just, say, like what our water department would do with fixing a break or replacing the short section of line. This is heavy excavation, requires some very, very specific equipment, and is a pretty impressive testing procedure too. I don't know about you, but anything that's pressurized up to 2,000 PSI for any amount of time isn't anything I want to hang out around. So I'm glad to know that that pipeline will be tested to verify its integrity in town. They've also provided, well, actually, we received a copy of the landowner notification for the test, and those tests are planned in April. So the city's approval of the use of the site is critical to Kern River's ability to continue on with their schedule, and it's our recommendation that the council approve the workspace agreement with Kern River. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'm a little concerned about the impacts to the site and making sure that they're really returned to looking as good as possible. I remember when we built the pipeline up on the foothills. I was a little kid. I'm old now, and it's a really big scar that we can still all see, and the work that's being done in North Canyon right now is incredibly visible.
You can never replicate what Mother Nature creates. I think we'd all agree with that. We have examples of that where the pipelines cross north and south and through town. But given the effort of Kern River in the past to restore, I think they've done a pretty good job.
Do you want to speak to that?
Maybe while you're doing that, maybe address like what your methodology is to that reclamation work as well.
Of course. So we have a reclamation plan in place. Obviously, we have been in the ground here since 1993, so 30 years. We're not going anywhere anytime soon, and it is a core tenet in our company to be good neighbors. We do believe that we need to return the area, and I believe it is in our agreement that we need to return it to the condition that it is currently in. And there are terms in the agreement that we will return at the 1-year mark, and at Lloyd's direction to go over anything that may have been missed or needs to be addressed and excuse me, and then to complete that work if needed. So given the Eaglewood Cove subdivision that is growing in the area, the federal requirement to come in will require us to do maintenance on the pipe in the area, in our right-of-way, and we have had to, dig it up in the past for our ILI, which would be our integrity management campaigns. We are on a cycle as per federal requirements. You did say, Councilwoman Bradshaw, that you see the scar there, and unfortunately, we're unable to vegetate over our pipeline. We have to keep it maintained so that we can access it later. However, with native grasses, we have a seed mix that the Forest Service has given us to use in the area. We feel that we can keep it vegetated to its native level and maintain it to a level that the city would approve of.
So it's semi-native level, because we're not going to get any of the scrub brush or the trees back on your pipeline.
Exactly.
So this is a it's a neighborhood that I think will have a lot of expectations of how that site looks. It's going to be an increasingly visible spot for us as a trailhead for our new easiest green trail access to the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. So how it looks and how it feels and how it's restored matters a lot to me, and I'll be keeping a close eye on it.
Absolutely.
What's the depth of the pipe in that area?
So it varies. We require, FERC is a Federal Energy Regulation Commission, but they require a minimum of 3 feet of cover. For the safety of our pipeline, we require a minimum of 5 feet, and we do depth of cover remediation on a 7-year recurring cycle throughout the pipeline. The areas that we're in are very hilly up there. I believe it's 600 to 800 foot elevation difference across this test. Because of that, our pipe depth varies anywhere from the 5 feet minimum up to 11 feet, I believe we have on some of our integrity management, our alignment sheets. So to answer your question, at least 5 feet through the areas that we'll be digging.
And so the hole that it looks like you're uncovering the pipe, and the area that you uncover it is 5 feet. Like, that's a pretty deep hole in this bench area, right?
It is, and I would also say that it's 5 feet to the top of the pipeline. We have a 36-inch diameter pipeline, so that would be 8 feet to the bottom, sloped back, benched, and then we have spoil piles on the side. Correct.
And then how do you test the pipe?
So for this outage, and to be clear, we have 2 pipelines that run in parallel to each other. So we're able to have an outage on one pipe while maintaining service to the other, which is critical for our customers. Obviously, we supply power to many Utah citizens and Nevada and so on. So what we'll do is we will uncover the pipe. We will vacate it by isolating it at the north and south ends at valve sites. That would be, one of them is 20 miles north, another one's about 10 miles south. We'll pump all of the gas that we can out of the pipe, and then again at that valve site 20 miles north, we'll flare the rest off until it's safe to do hot work or welding on the pipe. We'll cut a 20 to 40 foot section out of the pipe when it's safe to do so, and then we'll clean it, and then we will dry it out. We don't want liquids in there. We will weld test headers on the top and the bottom, fill it up with water, and then probably overnight, because of pressure fluctuations, we'll pump that water pressure up to about 2,002.7, it's exactly 2,002.7 PSI to be in compliance, and hold it for 8 hours. Now, keep in mind, this pipeline has been tested at the mill to that level, but we are required by FERC to show testing for that long and to comply with federal regulation.
Thank you.
What type of outreach are you going to do in the community, like in the neighboring areas, like letting them know what's happening, when it's happening, the time frame? And then also, perhaps you already addressed this, but from the beginning of, the project to the end, how long will this take?
We have sent out notification letters to the impacted members of the community as well, and I believe that's what Lloyd had referred to earlier. We have requirements for posting information. My personal number will be posted on these signs, so people can call me whenever they need to if they have any questions. And then we'll obviously have our representatives on site that people can speak with if they have questions about what's happening. We've already gotten a few calls from people that had received the notification asking kind of what we're doing, kind of the same questions and concerns that are being brought up tonight, understandably so. We have a construction window of April 3rd through July 15th. Now, it's a pretty broad window. We're doing 2 strength tests with the same contractor. One is down in South Jordan, one will be up here. We feel that it will not be suitable April 3rd to come in to the foothills. We'll probably still have snow on the ground. So we're not thinking that dirt work will begin exactly at the beginning of that. And I would not expect it to begin until May. Our outage for the pipeline itself will be in June. It'll be June 12th through the 28th, I believe. And that's when we'll be evacuating the pipeline, cutting it open, cleaning it, and running the test. And then we will have everything reburied and then remediation going until July 14th, and then we will have obviously our water testing and discharge to the city of North Salt Lake's irrigation system.
Where does the water go after you're done with it?
That's a great question. So the city of North Salt Lake has the tanks right there, the 5,800 tanks for the Eaglewood Cove development. I believe they have the boundary just south of you there. So they've requested that after we use the water, and we estimate about 400,000 gallons, that we test it, and then once it's approved, we can give it back to them. It'll go to their irrigation system at the golf course. It's a lake or an overflow pond that they have there, and then they'll use it for irrigation.
And then is there any additional risk during the testing period that would be to the neighbors or anything like that? Like a industrial hazard risk or anything?
Oh, no. So with the pipeline, when we clear the pipeline, we run a solution through the pipeline called Simple Green. It's actually something you can buy over the counter or off the shelf, but it's good for hydrocarbons, which is what natural gas is. So it pulls all the hydrocarbons out, and then we'll test the pipe prior to putting any water in there. So we would not expect to see any waste come out. And then we have to have a dry pipeline prior to running the test, and then after running the test before we can refill it with gas. So no, we do not expect any hazardous materials.
Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions, are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the temporary workspace agreement with Kern River.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. And now Mr. Lloyd Cheney, our last item.
I'm sorry, Mayor, could I just ask a quick question
Sure.
of our city staff? During this testing process, if you look on the map, I mean, it shows, our 2 maps show where it's going to be. Will the trailhead be open during this time? Or are we closing, will people be able to access that trailhead parking lot? Are we closing that? For how long?
I can answer that.
Sure.
So we have no plans to close the trailhead at this time. We intend to use the road as an access only for equipment to get up to that central location, but we won't be closing the trailhead. You'll be able to get to it and go across.
Okay, so barring any unforeseen circumstances, people will still be able to utilize this area. They'll be able to come in and out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Lloyd, our next item.
Thanks, Mayor. It's good to get to the most important item on the agenda. Pleased to bring for your consideration the award of our annual concrete replacement contract. I've explained this many times over the years that this is the contract that takes care of utility, a little bit of cleanup after our utility work for the water department, the power department. We do a little prep work for our street reconstructions, take care of storm drain issues. This is really an important contract to us, and we're very pleased to have received a bid from JMR Construction once again as the low bidder. We have very high hopes for the things that we can get accomplished in the upcoming construction season. JMR's had this contract multiple times over the years, and we know each other well. We work together really well. And from a staff's perspective, we're just thrilled to have these guys back, potentially to be the city's contractor for another year. I would point out that this contract is a little bit unusual in our recommendation to award, in that we request the council award the contract according to the unit prices and not according to the total, because our units are somewhat uncertain depending on the amount of utility work that needs to be done, the number of concrete panels we need to replace. We want to pay for those based on the work that is done and allocate those costs to each of the departments. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have tonight. Mike Eggett, sitting here in the audience, appreciate his patience waiting to get to this point in the agenda. And again, thank you.
That's a long time for you to wait. Thank you. Yes, any questions on this item from the council?
I would move
Mayor, I'm
that-
happy to make a
oh,
motion.
Okay,
Move that we approve the contract with JMR Construction for this season's concrete work at the unit prices presented.
excellent. Thank you. Sorry. That's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.